Good morning, everyone. I just realized I messed up a little something, so give me half a second to fix it. And then we'll get going. All right. There we go. There are a million steps to start a stream. If you want to stream on all the programs, and occasionally I forget them. So good. We're good. We're live. We did it. We've succeeded. Happy Monday. I don't have a new baby yet. Still inside incubating. Username says, didn't even know you could do this on Periscope. Yes, this is what Periscope does. This is what I do. Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. We have a nice question and answer call-in session. I guess it's not really a call-in session. Why does this look so weird on Instagram? Not sure. Sorry, Instagram, we're having a weird camera angle today. You'll survive. For everyone else, we have a nice normal camera angle. Good morning, everyone who is here. Hope you're having a great, great day. Surprised I don't have a baby. I have a doctor's appointment I have to go to, so we have to pack it up at about 9:30 today to do that. Username says, how do you get the screen on here? I have no clue what you're talking about. Sorry. Consult Google. Consulting Google will solve all of your problems for the most part. Good morning from Chicago. I was just listening to a podcast about Chicago. Chicago's a great city. It's lots of fun. I don't like your pizza there. Pizza in New York City is a million times better. Sorry, but it's true. My favorite pizza in New York City is at a place called Giuliana's. If you would like a history lesson on pizza, there was a guy named Patsy Grimaldi who came to New York City a long time ago. You may know him from the restaurant Grimaldi's, that's his name. And after a while, he sold Grimaldi's. He sold the rights to the name, and they became a chain. They're all over the place. He decided, though, he wanted to get back in the pizza business, because why wouldn't you get back in the pizza business if you're the best pizza maker in the world? So he decided to open a place called Giuliana's, which was his grandmother's name, right next to Grimaldi's in Brooklyn Heights. The original Grimaldi's is in Brooklyn Heights. Giuliana's is right next door. You can still go there. He'll cook you pizza personally. It's amazing. It's the best pizza I've ever had in my life. It's so good. All right. Would you all think about some sort of would we think about a contest to win a World Series main event seat? Oh, Dustin. If Dustin wants to put up a main event seat for us to give away, I'm certainly happy to do that. So Dustin, please feel free to send me the money, and I will take care of that. I'm happy to run the list, or run the giveaway as you see fit. We do a lot of giveaways, by the way. We're currently doing a giveaway for $500 cash. We want you to use it to play poker, though. Also, you get a year at pokercoaching.com. You get 6 books. You can find details about this on probably wherever you're watching this. Go to my Twitter page, twitter.com/Jonathan Little, or Instagram in my story, instagram.com/JCardShark. There's information there. I want to get you all, I want to give you all free stuff. So far, we've given away a Mid-States Poker Tour package. We've given away a charity series of poker seats. We've given away a Heartland Poker Tour seats. We may figure out a way to give away a World Series of Poker seat. Dustin here on Instagram says he's going to be giving away the main event seat, so that's great. Thank you, Dustin. Feel free to get me that information, and we will give it away. Do you enjoy New York City street hot dogs? No, I've never had a hot dog in New York City. I try to not have hot dogs in general. Are politics off okay to talk about? I don't know why you want to talk about politics. We have many, many more important things to discuss today, like which game to play. Today, we're going to talk about which game to play. I get this question all the time. And the question is essentially, I'm already pretty good at No Limit Hold'em, but I think I want to try to learn another game. And you may ask, why do you want to learn another game? And there are many, many reasons. This person says they're hesitant to give up on the progress that they have made. So often the question is, if I had to start today, what game would I start playing? I would start playing No Limit Texas Hold'em. Why? Because No Limit Texas Hold'em definitely, without a doubt, has a future. If you've played live poker anywhere in the world, you know that it is soft, right? And if you play in soft games, you're going to make money. Now, given we know No Limit Hold'em is soft, are there better options? That's what you should be asking. The most obvious options are games like Pot Limit Omaha, which is also soft. Mixed games, which are also soft, etc., etc. All the games are soft. We don't really care about softness because all the games are soft enough. So what we do care about is the longevity of a game. How long will this game actually last? That's the big question. So there have been many games that have come and gone, right? Many, many, many games that have come and gone. We've had 5-card draw. Well, 5-card stud, 5-card draw. I don't know what came before 5-card stud. I'm sure something. 5-card stud, 5-card draw, limit hold'em, 7-card stud. All these games, right? Low ball, draw, whatever. You name the game, it's come and gone. Sure, some of these games are still sporadically played, but that does not mean that these are games you can play on a regular basis for high stakes. If your goal is to win money from poker long term, significant money, not just like $1,000 a month, I'm talking like if you want to make $100K a year, you must play a game that you can put in substantial volume, right? And my students who come to me very often are all, they're winning 5 or 10K a year. Maybe they're losing a little bit. They're often like recreational players who want to be able to move to that next level. So how do you move to the next level? And very often, volume at high stakes is the key. If you play one game that you just can't play very often, sure, you're going to make money from it, but it's not going to be very valuable. It's good to have these skills in your tool belt, but they're not actually that vital. For example, I'm very good at Limit Hold'em. I played a ton of Limit Hold'em online, live, heads up, whatever. I played all of it. That's how I got my bankroll initially. And whenever I used to go to Bellagio every day, I would play 10-20 or 25-50 no limit every day. Okay? But every once in a while, there'd be a Limit Hold'em game that would pop up. Because a few recreational players wanted to play Limit Hold'em. It would usually be 200, 400, or 8160. And I would always play whenever I could, not because I liked Limit Hold'em, but because the game was soft, right? But that's not a skill I would have devoted 6 months or a year of my life to get if I knew better. Because I have to understand, back when I first started playing poker, Limit Hold'em was the main game. No Limit Hold'em was the upstart. Kind of like, I don't know, short deck No Limit Hold'em to some extent is today. Or, I'm not going to say PLO, because PLO has been around for a while. It's just clearly not going to overtake Hold'em. So it's not exactly the same thing. Like, short deck has a chance. It's not going to, but it has a chance. So anyway, that's going to be a clip someone's going to clip in 20 years whenever no one plays No Limit Hold'em. Is my chat feature not working, by the way? If we have anyone here on chat, on YouTube or Twitch, let me know. Say hello. I don't think it's working. May have to refresh it. So anyway, when you are learning a game, you want to make sure you can play it a lot. So, I remember one of the first times I went out of the country, I met a guy who was very proud of himself because he was the biggest winner in Pot Limit Omaha Sit and Goes. Biggest winner. He was very proud of himself. I thought, oh, sweet, maybe I should look into Pot Limit Omaha Sit and Goes. I'm good at Sit and Goes. I can probably learn how to do this. And so, I looked it up, and it turns out 3 or 4 $33 Sit and Goes ran each day. 3 or 4. As opposed to the, 500 No Limit Hold'em Sit and Goes for 10 times the stakes that ran each day. So, this player was probably, I believe him, there's no reason for him to lie to me, but I presume he was the best player in the world at this specific game. Let's say he has 100% ROI. And he plays his 4 games a day, that's all he does. Means he makes $120 a day. Compare that to someone who is just like an okay sit and go player who's making 5 or 10% ROI, playing significantly higher volume at higher stakes. That player's going to make $200 an hour, right? And clearly, one game makes a whole lot more sense to learn. And that's because you're going to win way more money, have way more earning potential. So, whenever you're deciding to learn a new game, ask yourself, is it a game that has longevity that I can also play for high stakes, right? And at the moment, the only game that fits that criteria, in my opinion, is specifically No Limit Texas Hold'em. So, next question is, what format should you learn? When you have no money, I think Sit and Goes are a great way to get into No Limit Hold'em because you're going to learn how to play all sorts of stack sizes, and you can put in a lot of volume at the small stakes. But very quickly, you're going to realize you need to move to cash games. Cash games are great because variance is relatively low. Right? If the variance is relatively low, that's good. And that's going to allow you to have a relatively consistent straight up graph. You want a nice, clean, straight up graph. If you look at tournament players' graphs, it's like lose, 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 win. Lose, 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 win. And you can go a long time losing. Longer than most people want to accept. So, cash games are very often how you're going to make significant money. And if your goal is to make $100K a year, you better be a cash game player, because you can make $100K a year like clockwork playing 2-5 or 5-10 no limit hold'em at almost any local casino in the world. It's just a matter of you getting good at that game and grinding it. So, learn cash games. Tournaments are good for playing really high stakes, especially if you're in a place where there are not big cash games. So you may ask, why would you even want to play tournaments if the variance is huge? Well, first off, variance being huge is fine if you understand what you're getting into, but that implies you already have a 300 buy-in bankroll that you're happy to put at risk, right? Most people don't want to have $3 million in the bank to play $10,000 buy-in tournaments, or $1 million in the bank to play $3,500 tournaments, right? They want to have $50K in the bank to play, and you have to have way more money to play tournaments than you do cash games, presuming you have a reasonable edge in both games. So when you're getting started, and for a large chunk of your career, cash games are just going to be better and more consistent. That said, people don't play poker purely to win money. A lot of people like the thrill of tournaments. Maybe you know that you have horrible tilt problems and you only want to lose one buy-in a day, so you only play tournaments, right? I mean, there are certainly reasons to play tournaments. Often they're not great. I mean, a lot of people play tournaments because they want to be on TV. They want the respect of their peers. It's hard to get the respect of your peers if you are an actual very, very good cash game player, because if you're a really good cash game player, everyone thinks you're not good, which is kind of neat. Whereas in tournaments, it's fine if everyone thinks you're good, because you don't have to worry about game selection. In cash games, there are different skills involved. You want to talk about politics, right? Politics in cash games are insane. If you are not running the game yourself, you either are probably very good at networking, you are very enjoyable to play with, maybe other dealings happen, or people think you're bad. If you can make people think you're bad, that's great. But understand, if people think you're bad, they do not respect you. They think you're bad, right? So a lot of people don't like that idea of, I'm going to appear to be the bad player. But that's often what you have to do to be good at cash games. And the problem is, if you start in tournaments and you prove that you're decent at tournaments, everybody knows you're just not obviously terrible, right? Unless maybe you are. No, I'm not going to walk into any cash game and they're going to think, yeah, there's John Little, he's the fish, right? So it's not going to happen. They're going to think, maybe this is a tournament player who's not very good at cash games, but he's certainly not going to be the bad player that gets invited to all the games to play. And I didn't understand that whenever I first started, because I was a young, dumb kid. I thought you were supposed to prove that you were good. That's why people play games, right? To stroke their egos. And that was probably a slight error. All right. Open-faced Chinese is an example of this. It had its years of popularity where people devoted loads of their time to it. I mean, listen, there are always games that come and go. You have to understand, open-faced Chinese is a relatively new game. Regular Chinese poker, or Bing, was around way before that. I mean, that used to be a game they played at Commerce. And I got really good at regular Chinese poker. It's a very easily solvable game. It's not hard. And if you just memorize a chart, you can play perfectly every single time. There's no... You just play GTO, right? You just learn... GTO is kind of like learning tic-tac-toe. Probably more like Connect 4 GTO, where it's hard, but not, like, impossible, right? And so, it was funny. I was actually playing some random $10,000 tournament at Binion's, and Dave Williams kept killing all my action, called me the Wizard, because he saw me talking on the internet nerd forums with all the other perfect Chinese poker players. And he killed all my action. I didn't get any more games. He kept calling me the Wizard. So I'm the Wizard, and I'm apparently good at Chinese poker, and I know it perfectly. Chinese poker is a really nasty game. It's a very predatory game. It's almost like old school gambling as opposed to the new school gambling, where we all understand that we are trying our best. I don't know, it's not so confrontational. Whereas Chinese poker is more like pool hustling, where you're like, hey, you want to play? Because I think you're bad. And that's essentially what you say whenever you start a Chinese poker game. You're saying, I think you're bad, let's play. And if you accept the challenge, you're very often, again, doing this thing where you're underrepresenting your skill set, and that's something that I just typically don't do. I don't think it's bad or unethical or anything like that to misrepresent your skill set, but it is a very different aspect of gambling that me and a lot of the other newer school players never really had to deal with. So it's not a skill that I know how to do particularly well, and which is why I was very happy to post on the internet forums and Dave Williams is smart. He does his research, knows who he's playing against, and knows don't play with the wizard who knows all the answers. Yeah, I won a lot from regular Chinese poker. Then they realized that this game is easy, so the innovators innovated. I say the innovators. There's a group of players who very often make games about a year before they introduce them to everyone else. Talk about predatory, right? So they get really good at these games by themselves, a group of 5 or 10 guys. They get really good at these games. Then they present them to the public in their games, their regular games they're playing. They have a huge edge for a year or two until people learn it. And during this time, in their spare time, they're learning the other games. And, the next game, whatever the next game is, like open-faced Chinese, right? Went regular Chinese, deuce to 7 in the middle, all this Fantasyland business, open-faced Chinese pineapple, open-faced Chinese with deuce to 7 in the middle, whatever, They've been innovating these games all this time, and it gives the best players in the world a gigantic edge because they're playing against players who have literally never played. Understand, it's very important concept. In any gambling game, someone very likely has a huge edge, and usually it's the person who introduced the game. And it's a very, very predatory environment in these type of games, because I'm not going to say it's unethical to get good and study a game before you introduce it to the public, but whenever you are the person introducing the game, and you know that you have played this game for a year, so you're at least okay, that's rough for your opponents. They're just not going to win. And this is how a lot of the high-stakes mixed games players do it. That is a very good way to have a very big edge. And, so they do it. And somehow they keep getting people to play with them. If you know someone is very good, especially in the mixed game environment, you really do not want to play with them. It is a horrible, horrible, horrible mistake to play with them. Unless you don't care about money and you just like playing mixed games. That's the cool thing about mixed games, is that a lot of people like playing them because they're fun. So let's talk about mixed games, right? Well, I had a hierarchy of games to learn. First off, understand that, like I said, I would play No Limit Hold'em first. That's what I would just tell everyone to do. And I would say learn cash games, then sit and goes, then tournaments. Or I would say sit and goes first, but if I had to pick cash games or tournaments, I would do cash. Sit and goes are good to grind up your bankroll initially. If I had to pick specific games to play, I would say No Limit Hold'em is by far the best. Next, I would say PLO, but PLO, there's a lot of problems with it, mainly because variance is through the roof. Like, not even, it's about 4 times No Limit Hold'em, that's the general thought, right? So, if variance is about 4 times what people are used to, well, it's going to be huge, and that's going to be very, very rough and difficult to beat. How do you make moderators on Periscope? Is that a thing? You can probably make moderators on Periscope. Let's see. So yeah, No Limit Hold'em, PLO, and then from there we have everything else. Let's see. How do we ban people on Periscope? Is that a thing I can do? Give me 1 second, everyone. We have the web chat. That's what you do. We need to go to the web chat. Web chat dashboard. How do we just turn them off? I don't know how to do it. Sorry. Unfortunately, we have to deal with people who have no lives, who are bad at life. Let's talk about internet trolls real quick. If you are an internet troll, understand that you are the scum of the earth, and you don't deserve anything in life. Sorry, it's true. Okay. When should you learn to play a new game? Very important concept as well. When you are playing a game to try to make a living, your goal very often is to grow your bankroll as reasonably fast as you can, right? So how do you grow your bankroll as reasonably fast as you can? Well, you play that game a lot, right? You study a lot, you get good at that game, and then you play it a ton. So once you're playing it a ton, what does that imply? That implies you don't have time to do other games, to play other games. You have to understand, a lot of people get into poker because they like playing games in general. And there's nothing wrong with playing games in general, but that mindset is a mindset that's going to keep you stuck with the idea of when the game I'm playing goes poorly or I get bored with it, I'm just going to move to something else. Whenever you're learning anything, you have to have grit. You have to be willing to stick with it, right? And if you just move on to something else every time poker gets hard, you're not going to succeed. So you need to find a game, stick with it, get very good, and then grow a bankroll from that. Once you find a game that you can make $50-ish per hour from, 2-5 no limit, right? If you can beat 2-5 no limit for a decent amount of money, like life is easy at that point, right? You have a game you know you can play almost whenever you want because 2-5 games are abundant. And then you can just play that game all the time. And you can make your $50 an hour, $500 a day, $15,000 a month. Call it $100K a year, right? It's hard to not live off $100K a year. So once you can make $100K a year, at that point, that's when you should at least consider starting to branch out because you're not going to play No Limit Hold'em all day, every day. You're going to be playing for fun, right? You're going to have some free time. You're going to play 5 days a week, 6 days a week, and then you have 1 day a week where you can do whatever you want to do, right? So once you can do whatever you want to do, that's when you start branching out. That's when you start experimenting, and that's when you start seeing what you can do. And whenever you do branch out, by the way, if you normally play 5-10 No Limit Hold'em, let's say, don't jump into 5-10 PLO. Go down to tiny stakes. Go down to like 50-cent dollar or smaller PLO. Or if you're going to play mixed games, don't hop into 200, 400 mixed games. Play the 918 game at the Wynn or whatever these mixed games are that they play in Vegas, right? Do not presume that just because you are good at No Limit Hold'em, or good at anything really, that you must be good at other things. That type of mindset will get you in a ton of trouble. So keep that in mind as well. Just because you are good at one thing does not mean you're good at other things. This is very good for keeping your ego in check as well. A lot of people who are good at poker were really not good at anything else in life, or very few things in life, and it has resulted in them being very overconfident and thinking that they're great. That makes them appear egotistical and arrogant. They have no friends then. People don't like them. And then they also try to branch out into other things. Often things relying with money. I mean, I know I did this with sports betting, for example, right? You see people do this with gambling games, with investments, with cryptocurrencies, with all sorts of stuff like this, right? Where people think that just because they are good at poker, that they must be good at other things. And that's just not true. You must be very humble and realize that you don't know a whole lot and that skills don't necessarily transfer perfectly. Obviously, the skills are kind of related, right? Like there are many good chess players and poker players. But just because you're good at poker does not mean you're going to be good at chess, especially if you don't try very hard. Remember, these people devoted their lives to poker. And if you don't devote your life to these other things, well, it's probably not going to work out so well. Okay, what else are you all saying? What's my recommendation for the number of buy-ins for a 2-5 player? Oh, go to jonathanlittlepoker.com/bankroll. We have you taken care of. Grit is the #1 trait of any poker player. You have to be able to persevere through so much. You do. I have a book, Positive Poker. I wrote it with Dr. Tricia Cardner. And this talks about grit. We also have another book, Peak Poker Performance. The idea of grit, this is the idea that you persevere. If you don't know what grit means. Presume it means perseverance. And perseverance is very important. If you quit at the first sign of things getting difficult, or even when things are rather difficult in general, that's just not going to work out for you. All right. Let's see. What's good, bro? Everything is good. Life is good. Are you heading to Vegas for Christmas? No, I would not go to Vegas for Christmas. I'm having a baby in New York City any day now. What is the use of overbetting? Can you use it with the polarize or merge range or just one? Glenn, it depends on your opponents. Go to pokercoaching.com and look at some of the homework questions. I don't know exactly which ones because I'm busy hosting a little coffee right now. But go there, sign up for your free trial, and go through the past homework questions. We discuss overbetting thoroughly in that and also in the quizzes. So check that out. To the trolls, understand that you're scum of the earth, LOL. I mean, listen, you have to ask, how horrible must someone's life be for them to spend their time going to watch someone who they do not like to say absurd things or to say negative things? I mean, ask yourself, Like, have you ever left any negative comment on anyone's video? And if so, like, what possessed you to do that? Were you just, like, losing your mind? You have to understand, people are out there working hard to better the lives of other people or to provide entertainment or whatever. And if you are being negative towards them, that's just absurd. Like, what do you do? What are you doing with your life? You are saying that your time is so irrelevant, that you are so fundamentally irrelevant to humanity, that you're going to spend your time wasting it on the internet, watching something you don't enjoy, to attempt to make someone who is probably already pretty thick-skinned, because to be out there, you have to be relatively thick-skinned, and you're just wasting your time and making a joke out of yourself. I mean, why do you want to be a joke? You don't want to be a joke. You want to be a good, productive, profitable human being. I actually have a blog post about, not necessarily trolls, but people who are disgruntled in poker and in life. You can find it at jonathanlittlepoker.com/disgruntled. And a lot of people fall into this rut where they're bad at life, right? Or what happens in poker specifically, I guess I don't exactly remember what I said in the blog post, but I'll sum it up. A lot of people in poker got into poker when poker was easy, right? They were making their $50 an hour without having to study much at all. So they had to study none. They got pretty decent just because they were naturally kind of smart. Again, often these are people who are not very good at other things. And poker then was great. They made $50 an hour for 2 or 3 years. They made $200,000 or $300,000. They thought this was going to happen forever. They got a loan. They bought a nice car, etc., etc. And then poker got tough. They lacked perseverance and grit, as we discuss in Positive Poker. And what happened is their win rate went from $50 an hour to $20 an hour. They went from $20 an hour to $10 an hour because the game got tougher and they never actually worked hard. They never really knew how to improve. Looks like we're missing YouTube comments today. Well, I can't do anything about that. We'll deal with it tomorrow. Thanks to everyone for being here on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all of those places. I appreciate all of you. All right. So these people inevitably get disgruntled. They thought poker was going to be their key to the kingdom. They're going to make $100K a year for the rest of their lives. They did not understand the fundamental truth that all games get more difficult over time because, again, they didn't study anything. They were just naturally pretty good. Or maybe they read one book. And these people get disgruntled. A lot of these people turn to vices, drugs, alcohol, addictions of all sorts. They often have poor relationships because they're always angry because they thought they were going to get something and they got something completely different, right? They thought they were going to get $100K a year forever. Instead, they get no money. If anything, they spend a year or two wondering, like, they're just playing and losing, right? It's frustrating. And you have to understand that just because you thought you were going to get something does not mean you're going to get it. I mean, I remember when I used to play sit and goes, I just kind of thought they would last forever because I was a young, dumb kid, right? I was 18 years old. I didn't know any better. No one taught me. I didn't have anyone to have a little coffee with me every morning and show me the ropes. So I didn't know any better. So I did not grind as hard as I should have. I mean, I grinded pretty hard, but I didn't grind as hard as I should have. And I never got disgruntled because, you know, things have always gone well enough. But I certainly see why people end up the way they do, but you can come out of it. Understand that you have to learn grit. You have to learn to study. You have to learn to work hard. And if you don't, you should not expect anything in life. Just because you're kind of smart and you can beat very bad poker players does not mean that you are in some sort of way entitled to make $100K a year forever. It's just not how the world works, right? So it's a mindset shift. A lot of people feel entitled, and especially if you have gotten something for a while. Because remember, these players got paid $300K, $100K, $100K, $100K before the games got tough. And they feel as if they are entitled to make this forever, and you're just not. You're not entitled to anything. Always keep that in mind. You are not entitled to anything. And especially a lot of people who are young, my age or younger, they've never gone through any sort of financial downturn in terms of the world. I mean, I guess now all the kids are getting it with cryptocurrencies right now. But in terms of the whole world overall, I mean, we've been on an upswing for the last 10 years. 10 years is a long time. And you never really know if you're going to survive until you're surviving when the economy is going in the toilet. And we may be getting there soon. So we're going to see a lot of disgruntled people in the near future. We're going to see a lot of people with significant amounts of fortitude crushing in the near future. And with any luck, I've set myself up to be one of the crushers and not one of the ones who gets crushed. And you need to do the same. If you think it's tough now, you haven't seen nothing yet. And you can learn that by looking at history. Everyone thinks that history doesn't apply to them or does not repeat itself, but it sure looks like it repeats itself to me. Jason says, adapt or die. That's right. Multi-Clown Poker says, you're studying poker coaching right now. Awesome. Glad you're enjoying it. Any advice for variance in cash games? Psychologically speaking. Well, realize that the swings in cash games aren't even that big. Especially if you're playing with an edge. Understand, if you don't have an edge, the swings are going to be huge. And if you don't have an edge, the swings will be negative. Right? If you are bad at poker, you will go on a downswing all the time, essentially, because you're bad. You're supposed to be losing. That said, you can have insane amounts of variance in the short run. I mean, if you play like a week straight at a live casino, if you're terrible, you can crush. This happens in tournaments. Like, imagine a tournament session all the time, right? Where you see a bad player win a major poker tournament. And you say, how did that happen? How did this bad player win the poker tournament? Well, it was only a week, right? You can run hot for a week. And remember, this guy was playing 12 hours a day, every day for a week. And he still beat everyone. So if that happens, certainly you can go on a week-long downswing in poker. What happens with a lot of people in cash games is they get to play once a week for 6 or 8 hours. And that's it. And that's not a whole lot of poker. So you should expect lots and lots of variance. How many hands is a proper sample size determining if you're a winning player? You just reached 16K. Well, understand. Well, I'll tell you what I was told a long time ago. I was kind of complaining about going on a 20K hand downswing when I first tried to get into cash games. From when I was playing sit and goes. I was talking to my friend Tom Dwan about this, and he said, how many hands did you play? I said, 20K, isn't that a lot? He's like, no, go play 1 million and then come back. So I did, and then it turns out I was a winning player. It turns out you learn over 1 million hands. I would definitely suggest 16K hands. That means, I mean, I don't know how many hands you're playing a day or anything like that, but I would tell you to learn to play 4-ish tables at a time. That's going to make things go way faster. And, like, I know if you're playing the speed tables, you can get in 5,000 hands a day, no problem. So you played 3 days worth of quote-unquote professional poker, and obviously you can go on a 3-day downswing or upswing. So play a lot more. I would say 100K is like a reasonable number. But also, if your win rate is very high, very often it is an indicator that you are at least a winner. It doesn't necessarily mean you're a huge winner, but you're at least a winner. And if your win rate is very low, like say you're just getting crushed, well, you're probably a loser. It's more difficult to know. There's a confidence interval, right? Like say you're up 10 big blinds per 100 over 16K hands. Maybe you're somewhere between a 15 big blind winner and a 5 big blind winner. I don't know. That's just purely an example. It's not accurate, but you have like a window of what you actually are. So that's how you need to be viewing that. Success always comes with haters, says Louis Philippe. Yeah, that's a good thing. As people, it's true. If you don't have any haters, if you're not doing anything relevant. Thomas says, start online, 10 cent, 20 cents. Yep, start small, grind it up. Make sure the rake is not too high, though. The rake is often very high in micro stakes cash games compared to other games. So you may find that it may make sense to play something like 25 cent, 50 cent, etc., etc. As a New York City resident, how do you play poker online? Well, I relocated to Hungary, and I only play when I'm out of the country. It's very important to follow the rules. There's a company, Poker Refugees, that will help you get relocated if that is what you want to do. What else do we have to say about learning which game to play? I would tell everyone, just play cash games. Until you have a 100K bankroll, no, let's say a 50K bankroll, I would tell you not even to touch tournaments. And even then, ask yourself, why do you want to touch tournaments? That's the neat thing. Like, once you learn that you're making 50 or 100 bucks an hour playing cash games, why would you want to go play a tournament where you're going to have a lower win rate with a lot more variance and you're just learning something new? Like, why do you want to learn something new? You don't need to learn something new. And cash games aren't going to die. Listen, cash games and tournaments are not going to die. They're both going to be fine. In the live arena, especially. So, understand that anytime you're taking time away from the game that you normally play, you're giving up that money. Like, let's say you go to the casino. You can either play 2-5 no limit, make your $50 an hour, so $500 in that day. Or you can play a $200 tournament where you have, let's say, 30% ROI, and it's going to take you 4 hours. Then you can play cash games the rest. Well, in that scenario, you're giving up 4 hours of cash game play, so $200, to play a $200 tournament where your ROI is going to be $67. So would you rather make $67 in 4 hours or $200 in 4 hours? And that's really it. Now, I understand that the reason you do want to play tournaments eventually is you want to be playing these 3500s where you can have 100% ROI, or $10,000 tournaments, right? That certainly does make sense. It does have higher potential eventually, but you don't have to worry about that until you are already making consistent money. That is the thing you can branch out to later if you feel inclined. What's a fair rate for online? I honestly don't know. Figure out whatever the rake is at 1-2, work yourself backwards to figure out what it looks like at the tiny stakes. I haven't had to deal with that in a while, so I'm sorry. I don't know the right answer to that. You know your sample is not too big, but you're currently making 18 big blinds per 100, playing 2 tables for 2 to 3 hours twice a week. All right, play 4 tables. Easy, easy, Malcolm. Learn to play 4 tables immediately. And start playing more hours. Up your hours, up your numbers of tables, and that will be very beneficial. D-Trip says, you're grinding it up on World Series. They have no heads-up display, though. I think no heads-up display is good. It's going to keep some professionals out, which is nice. And you don't need a heads-up display. I think it's perfectly fine as long as you're taking notes on your opponents or keeping track of what they do. You all may not know this, but whenever I first started playing poker, there were no note-taking systems on the websites. Like, you could not double-click and type notes. That wasn't a thing. So I had a box of note cards. Little box of note cards. And I would write I'd have it alphabetized. And each player I played against had a card. And I wrote down all the notes on these players. I had physical notes on these players. And whenever I would play, I would get out the note cards, I'd arrange them on my desk, like the seats of the poker table, and I would have, essentially, notes on everyone who I played with. And that's just like what you need to do, right? Obviously you need to take notes on your opponents, and obviously you need to know roughly how many hands they're playing. This is just common sense type stuff that is very relevant. Thomas says, do you play Raz at all? Raz is a great example of a game that you do not need to spend your time learning to play. I know how to play Raz, but I would definitely not recommend you learning to play Raz. That's like the last game I would recommend anyone learn to play, because it's not played for high stakes. It's essentially never played in tournaments, and it's just a complete waste of your time, right? It's like learning to play those 6-handed PLO sit-and-goes. It's a complete waste of your time. If I had to tell you what to do, again, I'm not trying to preach at you, I'm not trying to give you any sort of outline unless you want it. Learn to play No Limit Hold'em, specifically cash games, then later tournaments. Learn how to play Pot Limit Omaha. After you learn No Limit Hold'em very well, after you're making that 50 or $100 an hour, right? And then if you decide to get into 8 game, sure. But understand, learning 8 game takes a lot of work. Also understand that 8 game is really rough because some people are really good at specific games. And again, going back to the game politics, 8 game is not really 8 game. 8 game is whatever games that people decide they want to play when they show up. And if that's not you, if you're not the one dictating the game, you're going to be at a huge disadvantage. All right, let's see. You have problems getting up from the table. You only stop playing when you don't have any more money. Learn to get up sooner. Set time limits, right? I think time limits are very nice. Whenever I used to play at Bellagio, I would play from noon until midnight every day. At midnight, I got up and left, unless the game was really, really good. And I had metrics for determining if the game was really, really good. And if the game was not really, really good, I left. That was it. Some people may say that you should learn Raz because there are World Series of Poker events that are soft. And while the events may be soft, notice it's only 3 events a year, or however many it is. And also, again, some people are really, really good. If you look at 7-card stud tournaments, for example, the people who are crushing are known to be the best 7-card stud players in the world, and they seem to make deep runs on a very regular basis. So if we have these best players in the world at these games, all making the final table, do I, a person who is new to this game, am I really that egotistical to think that I'm going to learn the game as good as those players without devoting my life to it as they have? The answer is no. I'm not a fish, right? We know that we're not going to be as good as those players. Unless I devote my life to it, which I'm not, because there's only 3 tournaments a year, and I'm not going to be playing their 8-game mix because I'm only learning one of the 8 games. So, I I just don't recommend it for you. It's not a good use of your time unless you're already making significant money. What I did to learn all these various games is after I was already a decently big winning player, I was making, I don't know, $300 or $400 an hour playing online. I would then spend 1 day per week for 6 months learning to play other games. And if I thought the game had a large future, like Palamodoma, I thought it was perhaps going to take over 6 or 8 years ago and it looked promising. I played a ton, right? I devoted like 6 months straight to it, and I played a bunch of 1-2, grinded up to 2-4, grinded up to 5-10, grinded up to 10-20. But I wasn't really playing it to make the money. I was playing it to get the experience. And when it became clear to me that that game was probably not going to take over, or at least it would take a while for it to take over, I decided to go back to the game that obviously had a future, or very clearly had a future. What are my thoughts on quantum tournaments? I don't know what a quantum tournament is. Is that the one where lots of people can enter? Like, I don't even know what that is. So someone tell me what a quantum tournament is. Can you speak about how to make a schedule for your online poker playing? Figure out what works with your life, right? Try to get to the gym. Try to give attention to your relationships. Try to have a hobby that's not exactly playing a game. Going to the gym is a good one. Doing a sport is a good one. I guess sports are a game. But try to figure out ways to have a life outside of poker. I know Elliot Rowe has done a lot of work with helping people stick to schedules and stay motivated. So definitely check out his work. I think he does a lot of great work there. I just got a pop-up saying I have a new video blog that came out about my company retreat in Vegas. You can find that at jonathanlittlepoker.com/blog. Go watch that as soon as we're done. Hopefully you like it. How many buy-ins do you recommend for going up the stakes and micro stakes? Go to jonathanlittlepoker.com/bankroll. We have the Bankroll Bible there just for you. Hello from Hong Kong. Welcome. Again, sorry to everyone on YouTube today. We don't have your chat. We'll try it again tomorrow. Well, I have to get to it. It's a busy day. When I stack off with ace king suited 200 big blinds deep in a cash game, depends on who I'm against. Against some people it's a no-brainer all in. Against some people it's a no-brainer fold. You have a family and a full-time job. Your family allows you to put in a lot of time after work and the weekends playing poker. It helps push you and make you take it more seriously. D-Trip, I would again ask you, if you already have a family and a job, do you really want to devote significant time to poker? And the answer is probably yes, because you like it. But realize that playing poker as a job is very different than playing poker as a hobby, right? That's something that a lot of people will find, that over time, poker's rough. My wife's standing right outside my door. I don't know what she's doing. She's saying, no, don't look at me. Okay. Hi, Amy. She's ignoring me. You want to come say hi? No, she says no. Okay. Let's see. Louis Fleet says, thanks a lot for your precious time. Thanks you all for your precious time. I understand that you all are busy, and I appreciate you giving me 30 or 45 minutes of your day. I appreciate it. And yeah, it's good. But definitely, actually, I have another blog post. It's something about when should you go pro, and I got a lot of really negative, nasty responses about this one because people said that you are discouraging people from trying to follow their dreams, and I'm not discouraging anyone. I simply laid out realities, right? If you're making $50 an hour, you're not really making $50 an hour like a real job because you have to pay taxes out of this. You have to buy your own insurance. You have to fund your own health care, or you have to fund your own retirement plan. You may not be able to get in the hours you think you can get in because you'll find if you have a real job, you actually sit around wasting a bunch of time. So it's easy to put in 8 hours. Whereas with poker, you can't really waste time because you have to be paying attention. It's important to understand the reality, right? And before you decide to ever go pro, definitely take 2 weeks off your job if you have a job. Take your vacation. Take all of it. Take your maximum vacation. Go to wherever you're going to play professionally or play as you're going to play online, whatever you're going to do. And treat poker as your job for those 2 weeks. Understand? I'm going to play as if this is my profession for 2 weeks. And see if you like it. You may find that you don't like it so much. It's really easy to love poker for about a week or two. But whenever you start playing more and more, it gets way more difficult. How much mental skill do you need in order to pursue poker professionally? I don't know what mental skill means. How good you have to be? Well, I mean, you just have to be able to beat your opponents, really, right? There are a lot of people in private cash games in LA who are not good at poker at all, but they're really good at finding people who are worse than them. Mental skills. Check out this book, Positive Poker. We also have Peak Poker Performance back there. These are very good guides on the mindset things you need to know to get into poker. Can we really have a 4-bet, 5-bet range at 1-2? You feel like you're turning your cards face up. Well, if you have a bluffing range, how are you turning your cards face up? All right, you have Jack 9. Another player raises. Flop comes Jack 7, 6. Someone goes all in. Do you call or fold? Thomas, I would ask, how do you know what cards your opponent has? Also, Thomas, what do you mean? You have a flip. You can never know what your opponents have whenever they go all in. Unless they tell you. Obviously, if they tell you they have the worst hand, clearly you call, right? That little tidbit about putting money away is golden. They should teach that in grade school. Yeah, so I'll tell you all what I did. Every time I would win a tournament, I would buy an apartment or a house. Seems like a smart thing to do, right? To be fair, a big tournament, right? Like where you have a lot of extra money. Also, I put maximum in my retirement account each year. And it depends on how your year goes. Sometimes maximum is a lot. Sometimes maximum is not a lot, but it's very important to live well below your means. Not just a little bit below, but well below. Something I always tell people who come to me asking business advice. I do a little bit of startup investing, and people come to me asking questions. I always tell them to drastically overestimate their expenses and drastically underestimate the amount of money they think they're going to make. And that definitely applies to poker too, right? Like whenever I used to play at Bellagio, whenever I started at 510, I thought I'd make $100 an hour, and I presumed I would make $40 an hour. So I live life, built expenses as if I'm going to play 30 hours a week, making $40 an hour. But then I would play 60 hours a week and make $100 an hour. So I'm just, have tons and tons of extra money, right? Because you're not spending it. And it's good. You'd much rather have tons and tons of extra money. One Hand Sample says, you pick up Positive Poker. You usually avoid non-technical books, but the section on grit sounds cool. Let me make sure that's in this book before I tell you to buy it. I'm sure it is. Is there a glossary to this? There's not. Pretty sure it's in here. It's either in this one or Peak Poker Performance. But yes, grit is very important. Actually, I know it has to be in this. Dr. Trisha Cardner wrote her dissertation on poker mindset and grit, and some of that went into this book. Athenia says, every time you want a little extra money, you took a coaching lesson with Jonathan Little, Lucky Luke, or Alex Fitzgerald. That's right. And then last week you won $9,000. So maybe it's paying off. All right. I'm going to get going. I have to go to the doctor soon. We're going to have a baby in the near future, so this may or may not happen anymore this week. I guess we'll see. Yeah, that's that. Hope you have a great day. Hope you enjoy yourselves. Hope you have fun. Realize if you're not having fun, you're probably not doing it right. You want to make sure you're enjoying life, because you only have one life to live. And I want all of you to be happy. That's what I wish for all of you. Be happy, have fun, enjoy your time, make the most of it. Make someone else's life happy. All right. Talk to you later. See you tomorrow at 9 a.m. unless I don't. Bye-bye.